Well, welcome everyone. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. We are so ecstatic to have such a great turnout. So let's jump into it. So before we get into the meat of the lunch and learn, I just want to do a quick introduction to who UPM is as a whole. So we're a global materials solutions company with global headquarters in Helsinki, Finland. We serve over 8,000 customers in 120 countries. And what really sets us apart is our sustainability leadership. And we're recognized in the top 1% globally through EcoVadis and CDP A-list recognition. So now I'll introduce the lovely folks on the call with us today. So I'm Morgan Dundas. Many of you know me from TLMI from a sales perspective. However, I have now just been appointed Specials Labels Segment Director in the Americas, and I'm super excited to join the markets organization. And I'd also like to introduce Katia Cavella, our Vice President of Markets in the Americas. Katia has been with UPM for over 20 years and she's held many global roles. So we are super excited to have her in the Americas. And she's actually in the process of moving from Helsinki to the US. So welcome, Katia. And then also with us, we have Jason Hellman. Jason's our Senior Manager of Segment Development. Jason holds over 25 years experience in adhesive materials, and he has been also newly appointed into his role. And then we have Jessica Rocha, our Sustainability Manager. Jessica is actually coming up on 1 year with UPM, so an exciting milestone for her. Jessica has a ton of experience within the service food packaging industry. All right, so we are going to jump this into a poll here. So I'm going to ask Michaeli to pop this up. So is your company exploring new segments? We want to hear from you, and this is also a way to see if you're paying attention. So we'll give you a couple seconds here to make your vote. All right. Michaeli, do you mind showing the results? All right. Love to hear it. That's what we were hoping for today. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to actually pass it over to Katia, who is going to talk about what we've been seeing in the market and how it's actually been impacting the label market. So I will pass it over to Katia.
Thanks, Morgan, and good morning, afternoon from my side as well. And I'm actually not surprised to see that big percentage share of companies looking into entering to new business areas. One of the biggest areas for a label or process-sensitive labels has been and will be for a while is the consumer-packed goods sector. And if we're looking that more deeply, what we see, especially in the North America, is that the volume growth in the packed goods sector that we as consumers are buying is actually under 1%. So it's not a growing market as such today. It is, though, led by the food, beverage, and personal care, where we see a lot of volume instead of value. So retailers jumping in, private brands, big sizes, big volumes, comes with cost and price pressure as well. Consumer behavior, I think we've already, many of us, known what happened during COVID, for example, and what's been happening also with the sustainability front when it comes to consumer behavior. We want value. Economic situation is also giving us pressure currently on prioritizing a bit what we buy when we go and do our grocery shopping. Private label, mentioned before, nearly 25% of the grocery today is private labels. And especially the younger generation, the new generation entering to the kind of a mass of buyers is valuing sustainability and affordability. So it's not anymore either or, it's actually both. And what does this then mean for the label suppliers? It's managing the growing complexity. It's improving productivity for us. For you, maintaining service reliability, this has been clearly one of the key topics in the past years. And then protecting our margins in value-driven market. And I think you have also all witnessed this trend of when we see this kind of more tight competition in this big share of where we are all operating when it comes to pressure-sensitive labels. But then there are a couple of trends that are also pushing us to the different directions. So if you don't, Morgan, mind putting the next slide on. So we do see trends also in the backed goods sector. So these are a couple of takeouts from the web where we have been seeing, and it's a lot about, especially if we think about pharmaceuticals, there is shift in packaging shapes, formats, and materials as well, which is also shifting a bit the ecosystem in these segments. The next wave of these pressure-sensitive labels will not come from selling more of the same. It's actually coming from understanding what needs to be sold for the future of the packaged goods sectors. And these four examples here, two on the left, are from Pharma. And then we also have something in the lubricants packaging market. So sustainability is also touching all of the segments, not just the ones that we as consumers are buying, but also the ones that are typically seen more kind of industrially driven. But if we look at this specific post here, it is about smart closures, recyclable HDPE containers, and this is also where labels will have a big role in challenging the common way of marking and labeling those packages. I will not touch too much of the EPR packaging, but highlighted here, Jessica will briefly touch on those later on during the session today. Where should you then actually be looking for the future opportunities? And maybe you have already identified this when you're saying that you're also looking for new areas. So within the industries where labels are going, we have a couple that are with stronger EBITDA growth. And maybe as a reminder, I'm sure it's very familiar for you, but on the right bottom corner, you have actually explanation and reminder what EBITDA is. So these four segments have been identified as the segments where the highest growth from the EBITDA perspective is. Why does this matter? Well, companies are also evaluated by EBITDA multipliers, and it will depend on the size of the company, but also of the products or areas where the company is investing and operating with. So basically, if you think that you have a company that's fully focusing on commodity business, the EBITDA multiplier is smaller compared to you would be having 50% of your business share, for example, in the appliances, tools, and housewares. So I would be kind of guiding you to also look at how are these EBITDA growth industries, but also the multipliers valued by the investors and the companies looking for new areas to be operating in. So the significant difference is also within these four, and there are different drivers where these are coming from. And I would then actually want to take you to the next one to look why these, what are the impacting drivers for labels within those four mentioned end uses. So if we think about for example, pharmaceuticals, EPR and circularity is also touching those. So there is more scrutiny on materials and packaging choices. It is about making sure that the packages are safe, but also not on the pharmaceutical, but more on the kind of a OTC side. Circularity will play a role there as well. We have also aging population, so more pharmaceutical products and healthcare packaging will be placed in the market. Different kind of new packaging innovations will come when people are using medications when they get older. So we need easiness of opening, easiness of use. Labels may play a role on security features also in pharmaceutical side. Brand protection mentioned security, higher need for durable and secure labels, anti-counterfeiting frauds, very common actually also in the retail sector. So brand protection is something that the companies, brand owners, your customers are also looking at very closely. Increased performance requirements on these industrial safety regulations. We have more and more regulatory pressure, but we have also seen a lot of regular regulations when it comes to usage of industrial goods, for example, semi-industrial goods being for example, in a hospital or within our factories even. Digital transformation, faster SKU changes and increased demand for digital print. This is something that is, especially when you are working within segments where you have shorter runs and you have a lot of variance on what you're printing and putting on the package. So this is actually partly going hand in hand with the safety regulations. We have different requirements in the different countries, even in the different regions. So digital transformation there will play an important role also actually on the industrial safety regulations, brand protection, and also aging population. And I'm sure this is also a trend that you are seeing at your end, working with the different digital printing methods. And that's kind of my starting words for us to look more details into certain solutions.
Excellent. Thank you, Katja. All right. So as Katja mentioned, that we're seeing the label industry being very impacted within pharmaceuticals. So I'm actually going to ask Jason to speak a little bit deeper on this trend and where we are seeing opportunities. So Jason, I will pass it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Morgan. You can head on to the next slide if you want. All right. So the aging population. So if you look at the U.S. Census projections and data, in 2024, 18% of the population in the US was over 65. The projections are 2030, 20% will be over. So 1 in 5 people will be older than 65. In 2035, it's projected to be more people over 65 than children for the first time in US history. So, not surprisingly, older adults consume more healthcare services and medications. For this reason, the pharmaceutical companies are investing heavily into biologics, vaccines, and specialty drugs for this market segment. The greater traceability requirements are in part due to patient safety expectations. So if there's a problem, they need to know where this lot of medicine is, who has it, and so that it can head off any risk that they have. Sustainability requirements are becoming more prevalent for the pharmaceutical companies to make their environmental goals, but there could be legislation coming down the pipe at some point. All right. So we have the UPM PharmaSure brand. We launched this so that it would be easier for our customers and brand owners to be able to pick what products fit their particular application in these high growth, high value areas. So when we build these products, they're regulatory aligned already. That's the first part of it. We also have low migration options. This allows the brand owner to be sure that the packaging and label doesn't affect the medicine inside. We also offer change management support. All the way from change notification to let you know so you have time to make the change as the change is coming, all the way to helping you with inventory while you're requalifying the product. In this particular end use, any small change can cause a lot of work with revalidating and respecing in the product. Because when we build these products, we build it with the application in mind. You have adhesion reliability. So it's going to work the same every time you get the product. You're not going to one lot works, one lot doesn't. In the Pharma portfolio, a lot of times we need a lot of documentation. We have most of that documentation already. But if something new comes, we have a whole dedicated team in our product safety department that is dedicated to finding the solutions and the data that you need. Then we also know that the long-term supply security is very important. Again, if something changes, it causes a lot of work for everybody. So this is flagged for operations and supply chain so that they know that if there is a capacity issue or if there is a supply chain issue, that these products get priority over the standard core products in our portfolio. That's good, Morgan. Go to the next one.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks, Jason, for diving deeper into that. So we're also hearing more about regulations making brands more responsible for their packaging choices just outside of product safety alone. So Jessica, I know you've been following this closely. Can you speak more to this?
Yes, thank you, Morgan. As was mentioned by Katya and Jason earlier, we are seeing that well, sustainability is important kind of across sectors, but then the whole idea of compliance is also going beyond kind of going through the entire value chain at this point, and talking about the end of life and how that package is managed, and that label is a big part of it. So when we talk about packaging regulations, we are often talking about EPR laws. And to just define EPR, because it's an acronym that maybe we don't all know, that means extended producer responsibility. And these are a type of law that's like a policy solution that's been super common globally. It's been used a lot in the United States as well for products that have a challenging end of life issue. Think about like mattresses or paints, things that you don't really want to end up in the landfill or that take up too much space or are dangerous. And the interesting thing about packaging EPR now then is it's taking it to another, a very kind of diverse area of, segment. And these laws now have passed in 7 states in the United States, and almost all of Canada also is covered by extended producer responsibility regulations. And what they do then is they set fees, they have targets to help incentivize in different ways the reduction of packaging, but also to collect fees so that the end of life can be managed, or that we can also then maybe design out of an end of life and create circular products. So the probably the most important part of EPR laws right now that we're most focused on, and that our customers we know are extremely focused on, is recycling compatibility. More than 50% of our sustainability questions right now are on this issue, because the laws are setting targets that are actually, so we're not just talking about a nice to have anymore, but by 2032 in California and Minnesota, for example, all packaging needs to be designed, all included packaging under these laws needs to be designed so that it's recyclable or compatible with, compostable. And our labels and our label choices make a really big difference in whether that main piece of packaging is considered recyclable. If you think about whether it allows the package to be sorted, detected, sorted, separate so that you have a nice, clean and recycle it that then can be reused. So it's a really, really big game changer, I think. And we talk about these fees. These fees also down the line are going to be pretty important depending on how they end up happening, right? But we're seeing, for instance, in Colorado and Oregon, they already have fees in place. So the packaging the brands, right? The brands who are your customers essentially are then needing to pay attention to how much packaging they're putting on the market and the type of packaging, and the fees are set based on those two things, which then incentivizes packaging choice. And so all of these things then lead us to the UPM ProCycle portfolio. and why we really developed this. So it helps to define, recyclable compatibility. And here now we talk about EPR, but we also talk about APR, the Association for Plastic Recycler. So we do a lot of testing. We're members of this organization, and we work with recyclers to understand the standards. And we have developed a portfolio that goes across different packaging types to make them more easy to select and use, and still that has that converting performance. And those are really good then for a bunch of different types of applications.
Great. Jason, where are you seeing the greatest opportunities for expansion within the industrial market, and what's fueling that demand?
Thanks, Morgan. There we go. Here it goes. So industrial labeling is evolving from simple ID to a critical tool for safety, compliance, durability, and traceability. And that's creating the growth opportunities across the segments. Really what the brands are looking for are that they need to stay attached. They need to be resistant to harsh conditions. This could be outside in, winter in Minnesota, summer in Arizona, and it needs to stay regardless of the environments that it's in. And it needs to stick for the whole product life cycle. And not only does it need to stick, but it also needs to have the reliable print performance. So these are in like chemical labeling. What's in the drum of the teeth, or what's in the drum. If it goes overboard on a ship, so that divers can see what it is when they're retrieving that. What kind of hazards are there with opening this panel? Safety requirements for consumers and even workers. How do I handle this? What do I need to know for maintenance? What do I need to know for operation? Again, these things need to stay durable, outdoor, and last the lifetime of the product. The asset tracking, more companies are using QR codes, barcodes, serialization to track assets all the way through their life cycle, and even after life cycle, to make sure that they can prove that it has been recycled or it's been responsibly its end of life has been tracked. And to do this, they need the variable data printing. This is going to be like your thermal transfer or your inkjet, because every one of these labels is going to be different. All right, go to the next one. So the UPM Endurance portfolio, a lot like the Pharma, these products are designed for the application. So they're designed to work in challenging environments, really hot, really cold, oily, dusty, those type of applications. They're meant for that. They resist the chemical exposure, not only the adhesives, but the top coats as well, so that they have durable performance over the life cycle of the product that they're on. Again, this is reliable adhesion, so it's going to stick to the product for the life, and this will give you peace of mind that it won't have, it'll reduce your risk of failure because it's meant for that product. So this really just makes, when you go to our website or talking to somebody, you can say, hey, I'm looking for this. Is this in your UPM Endurance portfolio?
Great. Thanks, Jason. So, I mean, why we're here is, what does this mean for you at the end of the day? And I know we've thrown a lot of information at you. So we're going to kick back to a poll. So we just want to know who's still paying attention to us. So if you can help us with answering, so what are your top 3 considerations when thinking about expanding into a new segment? So if you can select your top 3, it might be something that you heard us talk about today, or it might be something different that we don't have on here. But if you can pick your top 3, we'll give you some time, because we know that this one's makes you think a little bit more. All right, Michele, do you mind showing the results? Wow, we have a few that are at the top there, but qualification and testing, product knowledge, very interesting. Sustainability, costing. Thank you all for your input. This is great, and I think this is a good segue into some questions that you should ask yourself. So I'm going to pass this along to Katya.
Thanks, Morgan. Interesting to see the results of the poll. So I captured qualification, product knowledge, and costing were the three top ones. If I quickly were able to capture the right ones, and then sustainability was mentioned as well. So maybe one question to ask yourself is that which of my customers are facing sustainability pressure? And I would still add to that, which are the segments they are working currently, because there are a bit of a different dynamics to sustainability when we talk about beverage or food, or we talk about pharmaceuticals, or we talk about industrial and chemical. So which of your customers are facing sustainability pressure? What does it mean for you? How you can support them? Do you need to bring expertise, knowledge, somebody who knows about the EPR? And what are the opportunities when thinking about the product knowledge with UPM ProCycle or UPM Pharma when it comes to sustainability pressure of your customers? And then the second one would be, what challenges are my customers facing? So do they have the need to enter new segments? Do they have the requirements, for example, change management in pharmaceuticals? What could UPM Pharma offer for you and your for customers in these challenges that they are facing? Are they assessing their capabilities for growth? And can you possibly bring in some insights from this session when you think about the beginning of different, for example, EBITDA growth segments? So that could be one question for you to ask as well. A third one that we were thinking could be also, is there an opportunity for your company to grow in these segments? So depending, of course, now where you are active in your areas, but could there be something in industrials for you to start embarking with UPM Endurance? Or is there something in digital printing trends that you could be joining your journey, or even in pharmaceuticals with UPM Pharma? And then the last one we thought that we would highlight here on this session is that, do I need to shift from volume to value focus? And I think this is a critical question for all of us when we are thinking the kind of sustainability of our business, and sustainability not now meaning here EPRs or recyclability, but kind of the longer growth path of our company. So wanting to take you a bit back to this EBITDA growth areas and your mention, your kind of answer in this poll of costing. So it's really about where to use also the time and the strategies and focuses of your companies, which I'm sure you know, of course, the best. But just provoking the kind of thinking here is that is it about more of volume or more of value focus for your growth areas for the future? Sure, there will be plenty of more we could be asking from yourselves, but these were the four we wanted to highlight. And hey, Loop was mentioned in the very beginning, so formerly known as Label Expo, if Loop for some people is not sounding familiar. So we are there. Please connect us to learn more about our UPM Pharma, UPM Endurance, and UPM ProCycle. You see here also in this slide UPM Vetro, which is our brand for wine and spirit solutions. So a lot of premium label solutions also serving the circularity needs. So inviting you to join us, visit us, and learn more with our or of our solutions for your needs on these specific labeling areas. And we're there to help you and to educate you also to finding the right solutions for your packaging needs.
Great. So now we've come to an end of the regular programming, but we would like to open the floor to see if anybody has any questions. I'm going to lean on Michaeli, 'cause for some reason I can't see the Q&A function anymore, but maybe I'll kick it off with a question that I think relates back to some of the top three challenges. But Jason, I'm going to direct this one at you. But what is the most effective way to build product expertise needed to confidently compete in a new segment?
I think honestly, from what I see, a lot of the buying process is already done by the time that we get looped in. If you're going to a new segment that you're not familiar with, loop us in early. We can do things like lunch and learns, and we can educate you. We have people dedicated to these end uses, so they know them really well. That would probably be the best way from my point of view is to bring us in early so that we can guide you through, know which questions to ask, and make sure that we're getting everything that we need to make the right recommendation so that we don't get 80% of the way in a qualification and then have to start all back over again. It's very frustrating when that happens for our customers and the brand owners as well.
Excellent. Looks like we've got a few come in here. So what's the key to getting in front of end users and then navigating qualification and testing requirements successfully? I don't know if Katya or Jason, one of the two of you want to answer that one.
Katya, you've got a little more experience in Europe with this one than me.
I mean, it's of course presenting innovation. So if you want to be in front of the end users and getting kind of the insights and qualifications on time, it's important to bring in also the whole value chain. So bringing in the kind of upstream value chain already to present what's coming early enough. So often when we have packaging innovation happening, labels should be part of that planning already. When we bring labels in, when the packaging innovation has been kind of designed to an end, we might face issues with qualification and testing requirements. So it would be very important to have the label suppliers early enough involved there. And then it's a lot of relationship building. So I think the more also the end users and brand owners know about the importance of label, what's needed, for example, from recyclability perspective, a label can hinder the recyclability of a packaging. So the more we can educate, the more early we can be there in the discussions, the kind of easier it is to come to a right solution and then get quicker qualification and testing process ongoing.
Great. All right, we got a few coming in here, so this is great. So what is the latest with RFID technology, market adoption and speeds? I understand it has been rapidly commoditized. I don't know, between Katya and Jason, which one of you want to take that one?
It doesn't matter. Yes, that there's been a lot of price pressure from what I've seen. We don't deal with the inlays, so our part in the value stream right now is mostly transfer tapes. But that does seem to be, people are constantly looking for a cheaper way to do it. So I would definitely say with the Walmarts of the world, Targets of the world wanting RFID on everything, that's commoditized it pretty quick.
And I'd like to add there also, when Jessica was talking about the sustainability, RFID is something we need to take into consideration also with sustainability. So it's an kind of intact element of the packaging. So yes, there is a lot of market adoption. It's more on the logistics and retail side, but we do also see it coming in pharmaceuticals. So that's something where track and trace is needed. RFID seems to be a good solution there.
Have any of your direct thermal and thermal transfer stock been tested and approved for RCA?
I would have to get back to you on that because I do not know. That's more in our core group for our direct thermals and thermal transfers.
Great. I will pass that name along to you after, Jason. How do you manage pharma customers who are unwilling to consider alternate material specs because of long stability testing cycles?
Well, if we rewind a few years, all the issues in the supply chain, I've really seen some loosen up of those specs. I hear a lot of we need a secondary, a tertiary supplier at least qualified. So if there is a supply disruption, we can still supply the pharmaceutical companies because they really need more than one um, supplier. Because if not, if they don't have the labels, they can't ship their product, and that has a major effect on the public.
And I think a lot of that did happen like
Mm-hmm.
3, 4 years ago, and we saw an increased spike in that one. And I think now it's more kind of on, like Jason said, on the supply security side. So what's not yet been the kind of dual qualified, it's coming to that point.
Great.
And I think Morgan missed one thing, one question in between. So there was this question about the MOQs.
Yeah. So for these specific UPM groups of specific materials, are there large MOQs?
I would say no, not for the most part. These are for the market as a whole. You can get into some of the pharmaceutical products that are really small, but we can work through any kind of MOQ issues that we may see. But these are pretty standard MOQs.
Great. I think that's it for all the questions that have come through. If any questions do come up afterwards, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We are happy to have a discussion or chat further on any of these. So we want to thank all of you for submitting your questions and joining us today. So you do have our contact information here, so please feel free to reach out to any of us. So I will pass it back to McKaylee.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate you all being here and for sharing this information. This was a phenomenal session. And for our attendees, this was recorded. We will post that into TLMI community. It should be there by the end of the week, early next week for you all to take a look at and access. And then just one quick reminder, please complete that post-event survey. That'll help us know what future topics that you would like to hear from. But again, thank you to the UPM team. Thank you for being a TLMI Platinum sponsor and appreciate your time sharing these insights. So with that, we'll go ahead and close this out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.